Hi, it's Rupert Hyde here from Action Coach near Kinross. I'm joined today by Theo Hoole of Hoole Yacht Services. Welcome, Theo.
Thanks, Rupert. Thank you for having me.
So, Theo, Hoole Yacht Services. What does Hoole Yacht Services do?
We we provide services to work on yachts, anything from the keel to the top of the rig, whether that's commissioning, whether that's upgrading, fitting synthetic decking, deck equipment, refits, anti-foul, electronics, all sorts really.
So, sort of full service for everything that the committed yachty needs to do to keep their boat in order.
Yeah, we like to think so.
So what took you into setting up a business to look after everybody else's boats?
So I, through school, I was an avid sailor and also quite interested in design work of a kind of engineering aspect. So I went to university to do naval architecture. Moved up to Glasgow to do that, and then coming out of university, wanted to stay in the area. Looked at the local marine industry, and there was an opportunity to move into brokerage, which isn't necessarily design or the services that I provide at the moment, but it really does give you an opportunity to pass on your insights and your knowledge to customers and kind of help guide them on the journey of buying a boat and making sure it's the right one for them. Um, I was employed in that company for a couple of years before another opportunity to become a partner arose. Became a partner, and we started providing a few more services where we would help people purchase boats um, and do upgrades to them so that they were what they wanted from the boat and it can met their requirements. With the since COVID and the financial situation that's kind of going on at the moment, people have been investing more in their boat, mainly because the new boat market isn't there. They're all getting bought up by charter companies or going further afield. So people, particularly in the UK, are investing either in what they have if they already have it, or if they're getting into boating, they're buying something older and upgrading it. So there was an opportunity to really kind of jump with 2 feet into that and help people, whether it's manage their boat for them or whether it's upgrade it or whether it's just commission it and get it ready for the season. There's that kind of, yeah, came an opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic. So effectively, you've been on a journey through buying and selling to buying, selling, commissioning, and adapting, and now you're the whole works of adapting,
Yeah,
commissioning, servicing, maintaining, and all the
yeah,
rest.
yeah.
So so when you think about that journey, what are the you know you went into a yacht brokerage that was a pretty traditional yacht brokerage at the time, and you've added a series of services to that. You've now moved on, but what are the things you learned through that process of expanding the services and doing things that in general most other brokers weren't going near?
Yeah, it was making the most of what of the skill set that I had at the time and still have, and also seeing that people um that actually brokerage, particularly yacht sales, it's kind of, I always said, halfway between car sales and houses. People would often look at buying a house and think, right, well, it's a three bed, but there's room for an extension, or we can do this, or we could do that with the garden, or it needs a new kitchen. Whereas, and I'm guilty of myself, I go and buy a car and I'll buy it online and I need this model, and you'll go and get that, and you'll have that, and you won't touch it. You won't do anything to it other than MOTs and servicing until it's run its time and you need a different car. And boats sit somewhere in between. You can go and buy two sister ships which are identical, but you can do work to them, you can change them. And I found myself having more and more conversations with people, viewers of boats, customers, potential customers, and they were like, "Oh, well, it doesn't have electric winches, or it doesn't have nice sails, or it doesn't have this." And I was like, "Well, we can do that. We can help you. We can either do it ourselves, depending on what it is, or we can recommend like trusted contractors that we use to get the work done. And this boat, everything that you're saying, the age and the layout, there are some things that you can't change, but there are other things that you can. And you have a lot of time when you're viewing, showing someone a boat to kind of get that message across. And then we had, the company was already going out and purchasing boats for people. So someone would come in and say either they want a particular make and model, or they have a budget and a set of requirements, and they needed, they wanted a boat to be sourced, and they were leaning on your expertise for that. And I as well, the available market's becoming smaller and smaller, so we're having to say, look, this boat will work once some things have been done to it. So let's bring it, buy it, and we'll guide you through, and we can do cost estimates before you even buy it, so you kind of know what you're getting yourself in for. And we can kind of go from there, and you might actually end up with a better product than something else which does tick all your boxes but has some other issues. So and it was just being that proactive thing of, look, let's make something work that I enjoyed and that worked for the company. So
Yeah, fantastic. So you've now moved from brokerage. You've set your own business up. You've been running a season pretty much. And what are the things that you've found different from working in partnership to being entirely your own boss?
So, well, two things. It's the business model itself is slightly different. With I'm selling, yes, I am selling products. I'm selling sales. I'm selling hardware and things like that. But most of my turnover is selling services and my time. So I am much more able to, from a business point of view, cash flow. I'm able to see what's coming up and plan and book and have the conversation and say, look, I have a space in February or in March where I can fit, and I think that job might take 2 or 3 days, and I can fit that in there. And then the cash flow. So that's just a slightly different business model there. The working in partnership versus I'm a limited company at the moment is it's just whether or not you've got two of you, and trying to balance the opinions of where you go there and your skill sets and where you want to take the business versus, well, I'm a limited company with a single director. So although I have to bring in either employees or contractors, depending on the job, to help me out, or for me to use a second set of hands somewhere, I'm always the kind of the guiding force of, we're going to do this. So I guess there's a bit more responsibility, and you don't necessarily have someone at equal footing to kind of bounce ideas off, but you don't have that struggle of maybe what you want to do. So yeah.
So where do you see Hoole Yacht Services going? Where do you see it being in 5, 10 years time?
That's a tricky question at the moment. Having been only set up relatively short period, I'd say that I want to be in a situation where I'm known locally as the person to go to for refits, for upgrades, for installations, for yacht management, and commissioning, as an experienced place to go where people will get trusted service. Size wise, I'm not really sure at the moment whether I keep it small and all, kind of under my own wingspan, or whether I expand from there. Time will tell, depending on opportunities and things like that. At the moment, I'm liking keeping it small and keeping it simple, but there's a market for it, so time will tell.
Yeah, and you're obviously passionate about sailing and life on the water. How much does that leisure passion bleed across and support you in your in
Yeah,
creating the
when
business?
when you can sit down and you can have the conversation with someone, they've had an issue on their boat, and you can sympathize with their struggles because you've had the same one before, or from experience of why that's an issue, or even where they've they're struggling and they don't know what the situation is, they want to improve something, and you can say, hey, look, these are all my ideas, because, and you just end up talking and talking and talking, and people, and I think I've really got that from brokerage, is that they could tell when they were talking to someone who was passionate about it, and who was I sold a new boat that we commissioned at the very beginning of the year, and the customer who bought that, he could tell my enthusiasm, not just for the product I was selling. It was a brand that at the time and still now is one that I'm really passionate. I think it's a great boat, and that was the reason we were selling it, not because we thought we could sell lots, or we thought there was a big margin on it. It's because it was a product that we knew that if we sold to someone, they were going to enjoy it. It was going to look after them, and it was going to be a good product. And that passion kind of came across. And he could, at the end of it, he was like, you guided me through this, and it's been your enthusiasm which has just bounded the whole way through. So people do pick that up. They and as soon as you start, as soon as I start talking, you get my knowledge starts coming across of how I can help them, and how I can change systems, improve systems, put something else on, or do whatever, and they really pick that up. So yeah, it helps.
So when you look back on the lessons you've learned, both in taking your knowledge of naval architecture into brokerage, in terms of building the brokerage firm that you were part of, and then in establishing a new business completely from scratch. If you were looking back across that, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to your 18-year-old self starting out?
um I said, don't be afraid to talk to people, is probably it. Um you know Particularly in the industry that I found myself in, there are people with all sorts of different business backgrounds across it, and often it is the customers that you're talking to, the ones that own the boats, that are using the boats. They've only got there by having a a successful career or a business or whatever it is, and able to put them in a position to buy the boats. They've got to be fairly well off, which means that they've been successful. So having conversations there, you never know where that may lead to. Also with other professionals within the industry, and products they offer. Don't be afraid to to talk to people, because particularly locally, everyone's wanting people to succeed. So you can generally pick up, partnerships or collaborations between different agents and manufacturers and things, and that's only a strength. So yeah, just talk to people.
Fantastic. And for the budding boat owners out there, what's the one piece of advice to everyone who owns a boat that they should do without fail?
um I don't that's a tricky one for one bit of advice, because I've know, there are many lessons that I've learned that I've passed on to people, and that I've seen where people have needed to. Again, it's probably on the flip side is listen. There are loads of people out there to offer you advice, and as much as there are lots of different opinions. If you can sift through that, there's always a lesson to be learned there. So yeah, probably listen
Yeah,
and take that on board.
yeah. Listen and learn. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid. Yeah, fantastic. And needless to say, have the services of a great yacht
Oh,
services.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, Theo, that's been brilliant. Thanks very much for sharing those lessons, and wish you all the success in the future.
Thanks. You too, Rupert.